Greetings! If you saw episode 1 of this particular series of me building an office slash mini home theater in a shed, you know that this particular building behind me is the solar shed. That's the shed that's been there the whole time. But looky here. Oh my goodness, what is this behind me? This is shed number 2. This is where the magic is gonna happen. So you know what that means? This is episode 2 of Let's Make a Tuff Shed into a Little Office slash Mini Theater. So yeah, as you can see from this footage that I have now started, a couple weeks ago, my buddy came and graded the area here where the shed is now currently standing. He leveled it and then he put on some gravel. And then another guy came and did some framing work to prepare the concrete slab to be poured. But I just wanted to include this time-lapse footage because I really like how, you know, the sun goes down eventually and then you can see the sunset and the color of the sky change. I thought it was really cool. So please indulge me. I just wanted to show this footage. But just FYI, unfortunately, something happened to the footage of the actual cement being poured. I had it, it was there at one point, but then I think I got a little too format crazy because just to make sure I have enough space, I don't want to accidentally run out of recording space on a little SD card. So I know for a fact, because I remember going back through and watching it on this little camera itself, but I guess I failed to transfer that footage to the computer before formatting the SD card again and totally erasing that footage. So, meh, pretty stupid on my part. But it happens. So sorry to the hardworking people who put that concrete in. It looked fantastic. It was really cool to see that time-lapse footage as well. So I guess you'll just have to imagine it in your minds. But then just a few days later, it was time for Tuff Shed themselves to come out. They brought a big old truck with a trailer behind and had it all there. They just put it all together on site. It was actually pretty cool to watch. I mean, obviously I didn't watch them the whole time. I still had stuff to do. I needed to get some work done myself. But every time I came out to check up on the battery of the camera and make sure the time lapse was still going, man, it was cool seeing the progress. Just like you're seeing the progress now. But they sure did make quick work of it. I mean, man, as you can see, just bang, bang, bang. They put up the walls, put up the roof, put up all the little trim, painted it. These dudes definitely knew what they were doing and they just banged it out so quickly. It was really cool. All right, so right now we're inside of the solar shed where all the solar inverters are, the batteries, because if you don't remember, we are completely off grid. We're a half-mile away from the highway, so it would have just cost an exorbitant amount of money to have electric poles put along our driveway to hook us up to the grid, honestly. After the Tuff Shed was built, just a few days later, the following week, my good friend Tom came by to check out the whole situation because he is an electrician. Because that's one of the things. I know I got a 10 by 12 shed on purpose so that I didn't have to pull a building permit. If you have anything in the state of California that is 10 by 12 or smaller, you do not have to pull a building permit to just have a structure of that size or smaller built. But the big caveat is, because I am having electricity go to this shed, unfortunately I will actually have to pull a county permit so that I legally can have this structure have power to it. Because I don't know if you've ever dealt with pulling permits before, but it just always takes time. They just move at their own pace. I mean, yes, I could just have Tom power the structure, but in case anything were to happen in the future, if something caught fire or whatever, if that building's electricity was not permitted, insurance isn't going to pay a dime if there's a fire because of that particular structure. So I could just shrug my shoulders, to be honest, but I just want to make sure I'm doing everything by the book. I don't want to have something bite me in the ass down the road. So better to take care of it now than later. But when Tom was here checking things out, he took a look at this little sub panel here, and there is one empty slot right now, but he said there is a way to combine some of the breakers that are currently in there so that we have even more. Because for the office shed, I'm going to have 3 circuits. There will be 2 20 amp circuits powering the shed itself, which seems like overkill, but at the same time, I want to make sure I have enough power to not have to worry about anything tripping any circuits. Because the previous theater that I had at my brother-in-law's house, the grow shed theater, that was set up the same way. Half of the shed was one 20 amp circuit and the other half of the shed was another 20 amp circuit. And even running powerful amps, TV, you name it, all the components involved with that particular system, I never had any issues. So that's why I wanted the shed to be the same thing. I don't want to run into a situation where I'm watching some action scene with a bunch of stuff going on and lots of power being sucked into this particular system, and then all of a sudden the lights go out. Again, just making sure everything is going to be running smoothly, no hiccups later on. So yes, Tom did take a look at this. There's another guy named Bob that actually helped with the solar as opposed to just the electrical. So Bob and Tom have been in communication, and Bob did say that we could tap into this sub panel right here. So let me show you what else needs to happen. All right, so these two conduits here, there's going to be a third that is gonna come out next to it. That's gonna run down, and I'm going to dig a trench. Tom said to code, it has to be at least 18 inches deep. So I'm probably gonna try and go 2 feet deep just to be safe. And then that trench is gonna come over here and then just come up right here. So that way the distance of me having to trench isn't going to be very long. And it's also going to save costs, just the fact that the electricity lines involved are not going to have to go very far. Again, trying to save as much money as I can. So Tom said he's going to come up here, going to have some sort of box right here on the wall. As you can see here, I've got this little spot here of the cement. This is where the mini split is going to eventually go. So yeah, the mini split will sit here, and then the conduit for the mini split will go up and then into the shed, and there will be a ceiling. I will show you in a minute. So yeah, with this junction box, that's where the two circuits will then split off, and then the third circuit will then go to the mini split. All right, so here's the door to get into the shed. Right now, I've just got some cinder blocks as stairs. I mean, I'll eventually turn those into real stairs at some point. Maybe I'll have some additional concrete put in, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just keep it cinder blocks, because cinder blocks are basically concrete anyway. Alrighty, so let's head inside the shed, shall we? All right, I'm going to be behind the camera for this portion, but here we go. Here is the shed. Oh, pretty darn cool. So this is the upgrade that I got. I got the insulation upgrade. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about putting some additional insulation because the summertime gets super duper hot. So I just want to make sure that this is insulated like no other, you know what I mean? Okay, remember how I said I wanted to be completely transparent about this whole process, including the snags and the hiccups along the way. I've already run into one because originally, because this is the west side facing wall here, and this is the one that gets the brunt of the hottest temperatures during the summertime, I wanted to have this wall be where the projector screen is and the front soundstage, and then have some sort of rack with all the components in this corner here, and then, you know, surround backs, and then the office desk here. But you'll notice something. This is the center line here, right? This stud right here, that's the center line. So these studs here are offset from the center line. Center line, offset. But for whatever reason, this other wall, that's not the case. These studs are in line with the studs on the roof. So they just follow each other. They are not offset. As you know, the center channel goes in the center. That's why it's called a center channel. So in order for me to have a center channel installed in this, once we get drywall put up, that really can't fly because I've got this post here now. So just to make it a little easier on myself, I could technically just switch it around. Have this wall be the projector screen and the front soundstage with everything over there. I might be able to get away with that just because then I could have the components and the rack in this corner on the north wall, because the north wall is going to get the least amount of direct sunlight. It gets a little bit at the very end of the day in the summertime when the sun is going down. You know, it'll get some light, but obviously the south end in the west end are just going to get bombarded with direct sunlight pretty much all day. So temperature wise, if I do have the rack on the north wall, it's probably going to be okay, especially if I have it climatized really good with the mini split. Or I could go with the original plan. So then I would just need to create some sort of brace, you know, cut this 2x4 here, cut it here. So that way the center channel speaker can go in the middle without any obstruction. And then just have a 2x4 going this way between these two studs. And then another one down here between these two studs. So that way I have some like this box basically. Thinking about it, I may do that. It's a little bit extra work, but it may be worth it in the end. So that way I can continue with what my original plan was. But another thing that I need to do, 2x4s, I don't know if you knew this, they're not exactly 2 inches by 4 inches. It's more like 3.5, 3 3/4 by 1.5 or 1 3/4. So not quite 2x4. The in-wall speakers that I have requested from Aperion Audio, the Theatris line, they are all 4.4 inches deep. So if you do the math, 4.4 inches is a little too deep. So what I'm going to have to do right off the bat, which is going to encroach a little bit inward and make me have a little bit less space, but it's not the end of the world. It's not going to be that bad anyway. So down here, I'm going to put some 2x2 furring strips going along the floor all around the shed, and then more 2x2s going along each stud as well. That way it just kind of brings out the wall just a little bit, a couple inches, because then that will give me the depth that I'll need for those in-wall speakers. I already talked to Tom, the electrician, about this, and he said it's cool just as long as I do that before he puts in all the outlets and stuff. So yeah, we've already kind of mapped that out. This will have a ceiling. These are 8-foot walls, so it'll have an 8-foot ceiling. There's going to be one outlet here and 2 outlets over here, and then one outlet on either wall here, as well as an outlet up high for the projector. And along with all the outlets that we've mapped out, there will also be 4 little can lights, maybe like 5.5 or 6.5 inches in diameter, not too big. You know, a space like this, 4 can lights is gonna light it just fine. Plenty of light. So it's gonna be my DIY job to bring in the walls just a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard. I've built a theater before on my brother-in-law's property, actually framing out the walls and everything. So I'm handy enough to where I can actually do that. But along with that, I will be having 2x4s going along the ceiling so that we can actually have some drywall put up. All right, so I know this particular insulation is really thin. It's like a 1/4 inch thin or something. So just to give it that little extra insulation boost, I may go with some rigid foam, like maybe just maybe a 1/2 inch rigid foam or something, just for that extra little boost. Definitely in the ceilings, I'm gonna do that because obviously I'm gonna have a lot of sun shining down directly on the roof. I reached out to a couple mini split companies. I haven't heard back yet. I know Costco has some pretty good mini split programs and manufacturers that they work with. So I may reach out to them. They do a free consult. So I may just at least take advantage of that, say what needs to be done, or if they can manage this, or if I need to have them come before the ceiling is put in, especially if I want one of those like ceiling cassettes instead of a mini split that attaches to the wall. Because obviously if I had a ceiling cassette, that would be great. That would be the most ideal because it would be the most out of the way. So yeah, that's the interior, folks. So those are the next steps, and hopefully they happen relatively quickly. So there you have it, folks. I think that about wraps up episode 2 in this DIY office mini theater journey. Well, I guess I can't 100% call it DIY because I've definitely had some help along the way, but for good reason. So I think episode 3 hopefully is going to be the electrical getting put in, having to deal with the permits with the county. Not looking forward to that, but perhaps it'll be somewhat of a smooth process because it is such a small structure that hopefully I won't have to go through too many hoops to make it happen. And the fact that I'm working with Tom, who is a professional, so he already knows what to do to make sure it is to code. He's going to be emailing me some plans that he is drawing up. So yeah, hopefully the permit process will go just like that. Fingers crossed. So with that being said, this world is crazy as it is already, so it only makes sense to be kind to everyone you come in contact with because you never know what they're going through. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them, possibly in your own little mini theater. And of course, physical media for life.